Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and we're moving through the star map again today, leaving the pirate-laden system of Pyro and moving into a bordering system, which is also good for pirates, and that would be Nyx. Nyx was first discovered in the late 2500s, back when the UEE was still a freshly stamped name, and they were really making a push for more exploration. The system was initially discovered by an explorer named Carlo Larry, who when finding the system from the Stanton system said there isn't really enough valuable minerals or terraforming candidates here to really consider giving this system another good look. Carlo would be mostly right about that. Nyx is an F-type star, and it has 3 planets in orbit. Now, Carla, actually trying to impress a few people she was courting at the time, named these 3 planets by those people's names, Lou, Morgan, and Ashley. But those names didn't end up sticking, and we're left with the more conventional naming theme that we have today. Nyx 1 shares the story that so many other first-in-orbit planets that we've talked about have had to hear. It's too close to the star to allow for life. It once had resources, but they were quickly tapped out, so by this point, it's just a big hunk of rock doing nothing in orbit around the star. It's just something that we've gotten used to, I think, with these planets. It is worth noting, though, that the metal and the materials that came from Nyx 1 were shipped to Killian, and that's where the ship production for the military really took place. So there is kind of a connection between this system, which is kind of you're going to see as more of a pirate system, to a very lawful system. Nyx 2 is a smoggy planet and was considered for terraforming for about a minute. But it was ultimately decided that while it is possible, it would just be too expensive, it would be too labor and time intensive, and it's just not real practical. Now, the system is right at the edge of the green band within this system, but the clouds made up of acid and carbon dioxide, it's just not a real hospitable place. And this is the type of place where you could land on and probably survive fairly well inside your ship, but if you EVA out, you would be probably committing suicide, because if you're not likely going to be killed by the pressure, then your suit is probably going to be eaten away by the corrosive planet's atmosphere. Just not a real great place to be. And then we have Nyx 3, which is a giant ice ball. It's basically consisted of just massive amounts of frozen water and ammonia vapor. Now, this planet is too far from the sun to get the light that's needed for, to support life. And with the cold temperatures there, the planet just hasn't even really been considered for terraformation. So with no potential to live on it, no worthwhile minerals on it, and just a generally crappy environment to be there, it's just a frozen ball floating through space. Now, they say you can technically EVA out of your ship there for repairs, but it would just be easier to do that in the vacuum of space. So that's it. That's the planets in Nyx. But it does have more to offer, specifically to those of you that are wanting to stay hidden as best as possible. The Nyx system is located on the border of a dark nebula, which means that the planets are all kind of enshrouded in this darkness, making it much easier to stay hidden, as you're just hard to see for the scanners and by eyeball. Beyond that fact, you have 2 asteroid belts, both of which are very dense, making, scanner use hard, and traveling in there dangerous. Now, this system is a really good place for those that are making sure they don't want to be found. Within the inner asteroid belt, there's a moon-sized asteroid known as Delamar. And Delamar was initially inhabited back during the Messer era by political radicals that were looking to flee from the military-dominated regime. Now, that may be the ancient past, but this location is still inhabited by those who need a place to stay hidden, which means that there has been a significant influx of criminals to the system. And when you have criminals and idealists trying to share that same space, you end up with conflict. Basically, the criminal organization wants to run things and do things their own way. The political radicals there feel like the illegal activities kind of hurt the legitimacy of their cause. Delamar should be a really interesting place to visit, and the good news is that it should be available to just about anybody. It's a much safer place to go to than a place like Ruin Station back in Pyro. Anyone is welcome in Delamar, but it is a very on-edge place, specifically because everybody's really paranoid about a massive police raid that's eventually supposed to happen on Delamar. In reality, no one wants to put in the time or effort in coordinating that, especially since it's already hard to find, so it's unlikely to find at this time. But that tension there, it's the type of thing that could make, doing bounty hunting fairly difficult within the Delamar, or even within the asteroid belts. So Delamar, at least in my imagination, is likely to be like a very large version of the asteroid hangars that we have today, the VFG industrial ones. And I think it's pretty likely that this is where, if you choose to use an asteroid hangar, this could be your home system, or at least one of the options you have available. I guess it kind of depends on how CIG decides to really implement that, but this seems like a likely candidate for an asteroid hangar system. So that's basically it with Nix, but let's talk about what it's good for. The lore talks about how Nix has a utility as a waypoint between the Castra and Stanton system. There's a run that runs between there. So for long-term freighters, this could be, this could cut down on your time. But like with Pyro, there's a lot of piracy that's actually taking place here. So if you are transporting through here, you're going to need escorts. Where you have transports, you're going to have pirates. And in a system like this, where you can lay in wait in the nebular gases, or in the asteroids, or both, and just ambush your targets, life should be pretty easy for pirates. And then also, for pirates and transporters, there are jumps to Bremen, Castra, Towhill, Pyro, Odin, and Virgil, and there's just a lot of options out there. So I think this will be a place that people also use as a temporary safe space. Screw up in UEE space or piss off some dude in a Javelin and you need a place to hide, book your ass to Nix, get deep in the asteroids, and it's pretty likely that even if they could find you, they're not going to really find value in chasing you just to lose you again in the system. And speaking of asteroids, I see these and just kind of think to myself about mining, but without any specific mention of the resources needed, I'm willing to kind of put this in the wait and see category. And I mentioned bounty hunting before, but where criminals are, there's always going to be bounty hunting. Just be aware that if you're in a place that's designed and really specifically there for people to avoid people like you doing the bounty hunting, it's probably going to be an uphill battle. And besides that fact, people are probably not going to be very happy to see you doing that type of activity in the system. Overall, I think the unofficial slogan for this system has got to be something like Nix, an uninteresting system for interesting people, or something like that. So there you have it. That's the Nix system. Hopefully you learned something today, but either way, stay tuned for some more content coming soon. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and take care.